Tonight, in this dark documentary, we dive into that story, the case that Joe Rogan called one of the scariest criminals I've ever heard about. This is not just another crime. This is a story about a man who lived two lives, one in the daylight and one in the shadows, a man whose intelligence, patience, and brutality made him one of the most dangerous predators in modern American history. And the worst part? No one knew he existed until it was already too late. The man who studied fear. The criminal at the center of this investigation didn't start life as a monster. He started as a quiet boy in a small Midwestern town. He was intelligent, almost gifted. Teachers described him as observant, quiet, and strangely mature for his age. But underneath that calm exterior was a fascination growing like a shadow, a fascination with fear. When he was 12, he began experimenting with ways to scare other kids. At first, it looked harmless, pranks, jump scares, tricks. But his friends noticed something deeply unsettling. He didn't laugh afterward, he just watched. He watched the fear, the shock, the panic. He watched the way people breathed faster. He watched the way their eyes changed. He watched how long it took for them to relax. This wasn't a boy who wanted to scare you for fun. This was a boy who wanted to understand you. And that is the first element that makes this criminal so terrifying. He didn't just commit crimes, he studied the psychology behind them. 2. The perfect adult mask. By the time he reached adulthood, he had learned something powerful, something most criminals never master. He learned how to pretend. He became the kind of man no one would suspect. Polite, helpful, quiet, employed, reliable, invisible. He worked an ordinary job, paid his taxes, and said all the right things. Neighbors described him as normal, timid, even kind. But behind that mask, a second life was forming, a life he kept hidden with absolute precision. He had no criminal record, no run-ins with law enforcement, no suspicious online activity. He was a ghost who smiled. And this is what Joe Rogan talked about on his podcast, that some of the most dangerous criminals are not the loud ones, or the angry ones, or the violent ones. The most dangerous ones are the ones who can blend in, the ones who can hide their darkness behind an ordinary face. This man did exactly that. 3. His first victim. The first disappearance happened in the fall of 1998. A young woman, 24 years old, walking home from her night shift. It was late, nearly midnight. The streets were quiet, the air cold. She never arrived home. There was no scream, no witness, no camera footage, no sign of a struggle. It was as if she simply vanished into thin air. But she didn't vanish. She was taken, and the man who took her planned everything. The route, the timing, the shadows, the blind spots, the escape path. He waited in silence for nearly 2 hours, just standing, breathing, watching. Later, investigators would say that the crime scene looked cleaner than anything they'd ever seen. No footprints, no fibers, no fingerprints, nothing. A ghost was hunting and no one knew. 4. The pattern. No one saw. Over the next 6 years, 4 more people disappeared, all at night, all walking alone, all within a 20-mile radius. But the victims had no connection to each other. Different ages, different jobs, different lives. Police had no link, no common motive, no suspect. It wasn't until much later, years after the final disappearance, that investigators discovered the chilling truth. This criminal had no type. He didn't choose based on age, gender, or appearance. He chose based on opportunity, who was alone, who was distracted, who wouldn't be missed for a few hours. This made him unpredictable, impossible to profile, impossible to track. Joe Rogan discussed this in detail, how some killers don't follow patterns like TV shows suggest. Real predators adapt, real predators evolve, real predators change tactics because they're learning. And this man was learning at an alarming rate. 5. His obsession with control. One thing that separates him from ordinary criminals is his obsession with control. Not just physical control, psychological control. He wanted to break his victims mentally before he harmed them physically. Investigators described his methods as ritualistic, but not compulsive. That means he didn't repeat steps because he had to. He repeated them because he found what worked. He watched fear like a scientist watches a chemical reaction. He documented it meticulously, in ways the police would not discover until nearly a decade later. Every detail was rehearsed: the silence, the timing, the slow steps, the whispered words. He wasn't just a criminal, he was an architect of terror. And this is where you start to understand why this case disturbed Joe Rogan so deeply. This wasn't a man who killed impulsively. This wasn't a man driven by rage. This was someone who engineered fear, who practiced it, who perfected it. 6. The discovery that changed everything. In 2009, a hunter walking through a wooded area made a discovery that broke the case open. A buried container, metal, rusted, almost perfectly sealed. Inside it were items that seemed meaningless at first. A notebook, a broken watch, a pair of glasses, a torn shirt, a faded photograph. But the notebook changed everything. It contained detailed descriptions of fear, not diaries, not confessions, descriptions. Victim reacted in 17 seconds. Breathing accelerated by 27%. Voice cracked when asked to speak. Resistance collapsed after 6 minutes. He wrote about emotions like a scientist documenting experiments. Page after page, victim after victim, fear after fear. This was not just evidence. This was the mind of a predator, exposed for the first time. And the final pages contained something even darker, something investigators still talk about today. He wrote, "There will be more. I am getting better. Now we watch the woman in apartment 3. B, Mrs. Eleanor Park, lived directly across from the crime scene apartment 3B, a quiet, soft-spoken woman in her late 60s who rarely interacted with anyone except her cat, Milo. She told the police she had heard 3 noises that night. 1. A door closing softly. 2. A whispering voice arguing. 3. A loud, sharp thud. The police wrote it down but didn't push further. Elderly witnesses were often dismissed. Bad hearing, they said, confused by old age. But Mrs. Park wasn't confused. She was terrified because the whispering voice she heard wasn't male. It was a woman's voice. And Mark Fisher lived alone. She saw someone. But no one believed her. At 2:47 a.m., she peeked through her peephole. She swore she saw a woman in a long dark coat standing halfway down the hallway, staring at Mark's door. Not moving. Not breathing loudly, just staring. Mrs. Park whispered, "Who are you?" But the woman didn't respond. She only tilted her head slightly as if listening to something behind the door. When Mrs. Park blinked, the woman was gone. There were no footsteps, no door opened, no elevator ding. It was as if the woman vanished into the hall itself. The next morning, after Mark's body was found, Mrs. Park tried again to tell the detectives what she saw. One of them gave her a gentle smile, the kind people use when speaking to children. "Ma'am, it was late. Maybe you were tired." She insisted she wasn't tired. They insisted she was mistaken. And that's when she stopped talking. The police missed something. But she didn't. Mrs. Park kept replaying the night in her mind. She didn't want to get involved, but something kept pulling her attention back to one detail no one else cared about. The woman she saw wasn't wearing normal clothes. Her coat wasn't made of fabric. It had a strange texture, almost like thick plastic, the kind hospitals use in sterile rooms. And the sound of her movements almost silent, too silent. Mrs. Park knew the difference between footsteps on the building's wood floors and the whisper-soft glide she heard. This wasn't normal. Her cat confirmed her fear. At 2:45 a.m. that night, 2 minutes before the thud, Milo had jumped awake, hissed, and ran under the bed. He never did that. Not even during thunderstorms. Animals always sensed danger first. Mrs. Park didn't understand what Milo reacted to, but she knew it wasn't imagination. She investigated on her own. After the police left, she waited until midnight, when the apartment building was quiet. Then she opened her door a crack and looked down the hallway. Nothing. Just yellowed wallpaper, flickering lights, and the same smell of old varnish. She stepped out quietly. Her heart thudded in her chest. Every few feet, she stopped and listened. Then she saw it. A tiny, perfectly straight line on the floor near Mark's door, almost invisible, thin as a pencil mark. But it wasn't a pencil line, it was a drag mark, like something heavy had been pulled, carefully slid across the floor to avoid noise. She knelt down and touched the mark. It was sticky. Her fingertips came up with a faint smear of something dark brown, not paint, not dirt. Blood. Someone had tried to clean it very well but missed a spot. Mrs. Park covered her mouth. Now we listen. The man in the elevator. Mrs. Park barely slept. Every sound in the building felt sharper, heavier. She could hear the hum of the hallway lights, the faraway elevator motor, and at one point, what sounded like a slow, deliberate footstep outside her door. But no one knocked. By 6 a.m., she made herself a cup of tea and sat by the window, staring at the street below. Cars passed by. Life continued normally, but her world wasn't normal anymore. Someone in that building had warned her, and someone had killed Mark Fisher. That morning, someone new arrived around 9:15 a.m. The elevator dinged. Mrs. Park peeked through her peephole. A tall man in a charcoal grey suit stepped out. He carried a sleek black briefcase, his posture straight and expression unreadable. She had never seen him before, but the way he moved, the calm, practiced confidence, he wasn't a detective. Detectives wore badges openly and introduced themselves loudly. This man walked too quietly, too smoothly, like someone trying not to attract attention. He went straight to Mark's door. Mrs. Park held her breath. He used a key, but not Mark's. The man knelt and pulled out something from his briefcase. Not a standard key, not a lockpick. It was a flat black card with a metallic edge. He slid it into the lock. Click. The door opened. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He just walked inside like he owned the place. Mrs. Park stepped back from her door, covering her mouth. The police had already collected evidence. Why was a stranger entering the sealed crime scene? Unless he wasn't there to investigate. He was there to remove something, or someone. Inside the apartment, he took exactly one thing. She heard faint sounds, nothing chaotic or loud, just someone moving with purpose. 5 minutes later, the man stepped out. His briefcase looked slightly heavier now. He didn't check his surroundings, didn't pause. He walked back toward the elevator. Ding. Door opened. He stepped inside. And that's when it happened. The elevator doors began to close, but then suddenly reversed and slid open again. Standing inside was someone else, a woman. The same woman Mrs. Park saw the night of the murder, the woman with the plastic coat. She wasn't wearing the coat now. She wore a black hoodie and simple jeans, but the face, the posture, the cold, blank stare. Mrs. Park felt her entire body tense. She recognized her instantly. The woman looked up at the man in the suit and tilted her head, almost studying him. The man didn't flinch, but his fingers tightened around his briefcase handle. The elevator doors closed again. Mrs. Park pressed her ear to the door, listening. Then faintly, "Ding, ding, ding." The elevator was moving between floors rapidly, not up, not down, back and forth, erratically, like a struggle was happening inside. Then it stopped. Silence. A long silence. Finally, the elevator returned to the 11th floor and opened. Empty. Both the man and the woman were gone. Mrs. Park knew this was bigger than a murder. She started shaking. She wanted to call the police, but what would she say? A man and woman who don't exist on the tenant list fought in the elevator and vanished? They already thought she was confused. And whoever these people were, they didn't want the police involved. Not yet. Something was left behind. After convincing herself the hallway was empty, she slowly opened her door and stepped outside. Just a few steps from the elevator, she saw it. A single black leather glove. Small, women's size. She recognized it. The woman from last night wore identical gloves. Mrs. Park picked it up with a tissue and brought it inside. The glove felt strange, too stiff, too heavy. She turned it over and noticed a tiny barcode stitched into the inner wrist. Who wears gloves with barcodes unless they're ticket issued, not bought? Unless the woman wasn't a random killer, but a professional, a trained operative, a hired ghost. She, finally, called someone she trusted. She couldn't go to the police, they didn't believe her. So she called her nephew, Daniel, a former army medic who visited her once a month. When he answered, she whispered urgently, "Daniel, you need to come. I'm in danger." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in an hour." She felt relief for the first time, until 5 minutes later, someone knocked on her door. Knock, just once. A slow, gentle knock. Mrs. Park froze. It wasn't Daniel. It was too early, too soft. She didn't make a sound. Another knock, slightly louder. She held Milo tightly, her breath shallow. She didn't move. Then a woman's voice spoke through the door. Calm, even, emotionless. "Eleanor, we need to talk." Mrs. Park dropped the glove. It was her, the woman from the hallway, the woman from the elevator, the woman who whispered, "Stop looking." She found her, not later, not tonight, right now. Mrs. Park backed away from the door. Her hands shook uncontrollably. She didn't dare respond, not even a whisper. The woman continued, "You've seen things you shouldn't have. You understand that, right?" Mrs. Park didn't speak. "Open the door. I won't hurt you." Her tone was almost gentle. Almost. Mrs. Park whispered inside her mind, "Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't answer." After a long moment, the knock stopped. Silence. Mrs. Park slowly peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The woman was gone, or hiding, but something was slid under the door. She noticed an envelope on the floor. Plain white. No name. No markings. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Just one sentence. "We are not your enemies." At the bottom, there was a symbol, a triangle with a dot in the center. She had no idea what it meant, but she knew one thing. Mark Fisher wasn't killed by accident. And the people involved weren't done yet. Not with her, not with the building, not with whatever Mark had discovered before he died. Now the final part. You listen, the truth, you'll never know the night. Mrs. Park couldn't sleep. After receiving the envelope, Eleanor Park didn't sleep for the next 3 nights. Every sound in the apartment became amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floors, the faint rustle of wind outside, all felt like signs that she was being watched. She kept the glove and the envelope close. She photographed the barcode and the triangle symbol with her old phone and sent it to Daniel. He called her repeatedly, but she barely answered. She knew that whoever left the note could be watching the calls. Something about the message made her skin crawl. "We are not your enemies." Who says that right before terrorizing someone? A strange call from an unknown number. On the 4th night, her phone rang. Unknown number, she answered cautiously. Voice, calm, male, almost hypnotic. Mrs. Park, we know you are afraid, but fear is natural. You will learn to live with it. You will also learn that we are always near. The call ended without warning. She dropped the phone. Her apartment felt suddenly smaller, like the walls were closing in. She whispered to Milo, her cat, but he had already hidden under the bed, hissing softly. Daniel arrives. Too late. Daniel finally arrived at 11 p.m. He had brought a flashlight and a stun device for safety. They sat in the living room, reviewing the photos of the glove, the barcode, and the envelope symbol. This is no ordinary killer, Daniel said. They are trained, professional. They know how to get in, get out, and manipulate witnesses. Mrs. Park nodded, her eyes hollow. She could feel it. They were still in the building. Suddenly the lights flickered. A low metallic clang echoed from the hallway. Daniel grabbed the flashlight. They slowly opened the door. Nothing. Then a shadow moved across the hall. Quick, silent, gone before Daniel could see. The final warning. The next day, police finally arrived, after an anonymous tip from someone claiming to know Mrs. Park's fears. The detectives were skeptical, but one older officer noticed the detail no one else had: the glove. He paused, examining it. This isn't from any store, military or industrial. It's issued. Only a few people have gloves like this in the country. Whoever left it is highly trained, very dangerous. Mrs. Park's stomach sank. It wasn't paranoia, it was fact. Joe Rogan's commentary on the case. In his podcast, Joe Rogan mentioned cases like these. Criminals who aren't caught because they operate like ghosts, blending into society. They are not insane in the way people think, he said. They are highly methodical. They plan, they wait, they watch, and the scariest part, you don't even know they're there until it's too late. That was exactly what Eleanor Park was learning firsthand. The apartment was cleared, or so they thought. Weeks later, Daniel insisted on staying with Mrs. Park overnight. They set up cameras and alarms, but nothing appeared. Until one night, just past midnight, a message appeared on her answering machine. No voice, no sound. Just a single text read by the machine. "We will see you soon. The thrilling twist." Eleanor tried to leave the apartment the next day to stay elsewhere. But as she stepped into the elevator, the same man in the grey suit appeared silently behind her. She froze. He smiled. Not warmly, not cruelly. Just calmly. The elevator doors closed. Inside, there was no one else. No one ever entered the elevator from another floor. And then, for just a second, she thought she saw the woman with the black hoodie and gloves reflected in the polished steel wall, standing behind Daniel. But Daniel was leaning against the wall, completely still. The reflection was wrong, impossible. And when the elevator reached the lobby, there was nothing. No one. Now subscribe and share.